Today we're going to find out about famous ancient gods and heroes who used some very imaginative ways of travelling. Can you guess who they are? We will be finding out about Mercury, Aladdin, Perseus, Poseidon, and Ra the sun god. Your task is to create your own drawing or painting which shows a god or hero travelling using their magical form of transport. You should research your chosen god or hero so that you can add further detail to your picture, such as clothes or other characters or monsters from their story. The sun god Ra. Ra was the sun god who travelled through the sky in a solar-powered boat. Ra was one of the most important Egyptian gods. Watch the video to find out about his solar-powered boat.
Ra is the sun god in Egyptian mythology. This god is usually depicted as a being with a man's body and a head of a falcon. The sun disk is over his head. He had been one day the greatest of all gods, but time wore him down, and finding himself too old, he decided to relinquish the power and go to the skies. This god is one of the most revered figures in Egyptian mythology. As the sun god, one of his duties was to drive away the darkness, and to accomplish his work, the god crossed the skies on his sunboat, lighting the whole world. But when the twilight came, he and his vessel plunged into the sea waters towards the underworld. There he would have to sail through the dark world and cross the 12 gates, which would be the 12 regions of the netherworld. Ra took an hour to go through each gate. Osiris was in one of them, the lord of the underworld, whom Ra always visited to pay his respects. But before leaving the underworld's darkness, the god was attacked by the terrible snake Apophis. This force of chaos tried to destroy the god's vessel, and each day the serpent seemed closer to accomplish her desire. Apophis once managed to swallow the sunboat, putting an end to the sunlight in the morning. But the serpent failed to hold the god in her stomach and regurgitated him. This event was marked as a solar eclipse. However, destroying Ra's boat became more difficult, since Set, the god of destruction, after losing the dispute of the supreme throne for Horus, had been condemned to navigate with Ra across the skies. He helped the sun god, defending his vessel against the terrible serpent, defeating it several times, making Ra's underworld journey safer.
Pegasus is a flying horse, a mythical winged horse which was captured by Perseus and trained to help him in his quest to kill characters such as Medusa and the Kraken.
The Pegasus. No man has ever ridden one.
Perseus is a Greek mythological hero. He is famous for slaying Medusa and for battling against the sea octopus known as the Kraken. Look out for Perseus and Pegasus in the video clip that's coming next. His method of transport is a chariot drawn by a pair of fish-tailed horses. He rides across the sea in this chariot. Poseidon was god of the sea, earthquakes, storms, and horses, and he is considered to be one of the most bad-tempered, moody, and greedy gods.
This god is also known by the name of Neptune, his Latin name in Rome. After the Titanomachy, the major battle between gods and titans, the world was shared between the three major Olympian gods. By lottery, Poseidon was given the domain of the seas, a domain that had been controlled by the ancient deities Nereus and Ocean. Although he had a seat on the Olympian Council of Gods, Poseidon preferred to live in his underwater palace. The god carried his trident at all times, a weapon that allowed him to generate earthquakes and create fountains and springs. His weapon was forged by the Cyclops during the war against the Titans and became one of the god's symbols. The god of the seas paraded on the water in his chariot, drawn by dazzling animals. Behind him, a large procession of marine creatures and minor deities. Albeit a sea deity, the powers of Poseidon extended beyond his domain. His was also the lord of the earthquakes, and the earth often trembled when the god experienced wrathful moments. Therefore, although they were far from the sea, the Greek cities in the interior were not safe from Poseidon's influence.
Mercury is a Roman god, and he is known as the quick and agile messenger to the gods. He wears a winged hat and winged boots, and these are his method of transport. He can fly very fast. Mercury is also known by the name Hermes in Greek myths. Watch and listen to this story about Mercury, or Hermes, and how he became an important messenger to the gods.
Hermes was born of the union of Zeus and Maia. His mother was one of the Pleiades, daughters of the Titan Atlas. When this god was still a baby, his mother kept him concealed inside a cave, sleeping under the care of Hypnos. However, noticing that his guardian had fallen asleep, the small god escaped from the cave and started to explore the world. As he wandered through the region of Thessaly, Hermes encountered Apollo, who was taking care of his flock. The young god decided that he would conquer those splendid animals, and he waited for the sunset to initiate his theft. Hermes opened the gate and took 50 head of cattle with him. But he knew that he needed a good strategy, otherwise Apollo would easily find him. So, he attached tree branches to the animals' tails, so that the leaves would sweep his footsteps. In some occasions, he forced the cattle to take a different route, where the oxen would march backwards, giving the impression that the cattle were headed in the other direction. Yet halfway through his path, Hermes is spotted by a man who asked him, "What is a boy doing with so many head of cattle?" Hermes knew that he did not have a proper answer to that, and decided to bribe the man.
"I'll give you a head of cattle if you don't tell anyone you saw me."
"I'll not. You can trust me." The god continued his journey, but remained suspicious, and so he decided to return disguised as a man. "Did you see a kid with cattle passing by this place? If you help me, I'll give you a great reward."
"Yes, of course I did. He went in that direction."
"Stay here. I will get your reward." The god walked to a mountain and tore a large chunk, throwing it on the man's head.
"There you go. The great reward that you deserve."
When he arrived in the Peloponnese, Hermes sacrificed part of the flock in honor of the gods. After his offering, the god found a turtle shell and, making use of the tendons of the sacrificed oxen, he invented a musical instrument that would be known as the lyra. Hermes returned home and lied in his cradle. Apollo realized that he had been robbed and went after his flock. Hermes' tricks conceal the villain's identity. The god was then forced to use his powers that turned everything obscure into something as clear as the sunlight. And so he reached Hermes' hideout. There the baby slept peacefully. Apollo forced Maya to wake the baby to have him reveal where his flock was.
Can't you see that that child is sleeping quietly? How could he have done all that you're mentioning?
Furious and embarrassed, Apollo said, "I don't know how he did it. I just know he did it."
Do you want to tell me that one of the most powerful gods of the Olympus was deceived by a baby? Isn't that impossible?
At that point, Hermes started strumming his lyre, and the sound of the instrument touched Apollo's heart, who was dazzled by the object and said, "Give me that instrument as a gift, and everything will be forgotten." Hermes agreed, and from that, the brother gods established a friendly bond. Apollo gave him his caduceus and blessed his brother with gifts that would make him a deity worthy of being among the most important of Mount Olympus. Zeus welcomed him there with winged sandals, transforming him into a messenger god. The story of the theft of Apollo's flock reached the whole world, and Hermes started to be revered by all kinds of crooks, becoming known as the god of thieves as well.
You all know the story of Aladdin and what his method of transport is, a magical carpet. Aladdin is a poor boy who becomes a hero and he marries a princess. The story of Aladdin is found in the Arabian Nights stories, which were written many years ago in 1704.
Whoa. Abu, this is a magic carpet. These really do exist. Hello, carpet. Let's see what we can do about your situation here.